It is 6:30 in the morning. It is still slightly dark outside, and you are in a deep sleep. Suddenly, the phone or alarm placed at your bedside rings. Ring, ring, ring. A harsh and loud noise that strikes your brain directly like a hammer. Your heart suddenly skips a beat, and a strange anxiety rushes through your chest. In the language of science, this is called a cortisol spike, meaning your brain perceives a threat and wakes you up out of fear. You wake up in a panic, rub your eyes, and your first glance goes straight to that alarm screen. A bell immediately rings in your head that, oh man, you are late. After this, your blind race for the day begins. Someone is swallowing breakfast without chewing it properly and running to catch the college bus, while another is swearing at a red light at a traffic signal just because they are 5 minutes late for the office. While you are taking a shower, the tick-tock is running in your mind. While you are driving, your eyes repeatedly glance at the clock.
Have you ever paused for even a moment to ask yourself who exactly you are running from? Is this rat race your own chosen path? This life might seem very normal to you, but have you ever thought about how your ancestors started their mornings thousands of years ago? Come, let's step out of today's stressful environment, go straight back 100,000 years, and enter the oldest era of our history. Just think about it with a calm mind. When one of your ancestors woke up in the morning 100,000 years ago, did they have an alarm? Absolutely not. When their body had completely rested, when their fatigue was gone, their eyes would open naturally. They would stretch, look up at the sky, and ask themselves only one question. What should I do today? They had no boss, no college bell, and no fear of being late.
You might think that uneducated people of ancient times just wandered wildly in the jungles from morning till evening solely searching for food. But science says something else entirely. In 1963, there was a very famous anthropologist named Richard Lee. To find this out, he conducted deep research on the people of the Juhwansi tribe living in Botswana, Africa. These were people who were still living exactly the same way our ancestors used to live. The conclusion Richard Lee reached blew the whole world's mind. He proved that the people of that tribe worked only 17 hours a week to feed themselves. Yes, only 17 hours. And today, you and I dedicate 1/3 of our lives, meaning almost 90,000 hours, just to a job.
Now, this question must surely be popping into your mind. If those people worked only 17 hours a week, what did they do with the rest of their time? We get the answer to this from the bones and caves that archaeologists have found during excavations. In the Chauvet Cave in France, scientists found 30,000-year-old paintings, in which pictures of horses and lions were drawn very beautifully. In the Blombos Cave of South Africa, 100,000-year-old beads made of seashells were found, which were meticulously pierced to make necklaces. What's more, in 2008 in Germany, scientists found a 40,000-year-old flute made from a vulture's bone, which had 5 holes drilled at perfectly precise distances for placing fingers. Just think. The primitive humans we consider backward had so much time that they were sitting around tuning flutes, creating beautiful paintings, and stringing shell necklaces. They had art, they had music, because they had leisure. They weren't running like us.
So then the question arises, which cursed day was it when humanity started locking up this beautiful freedom in the cage of time? How was the clock actually created? Have you ever wondered why there are only 24 hours in a day? Why not 20 or 100? And why are there exactly 60 minutes in an hour? The secret to this is hidden in 2 great civilizations from roughly 5,000 years ago. Around the year 3000 BC, ancient Egyptians started measuring time by looking at the sky and the sunlight. They divided daylight into 10 parts and twilight into 2 parts, establishing 12 parts for the day. During the night, they divided the night into 12 parts based on 12 specific stars, called deacons, visible in the sky. In this way, 12 hours of the day and 12 of the night combined to birth the 24-hour day. But what about minutes and seconds? For this, around 2000 BC, the people of Babylon and Mesopotamia applied their own mathematics. We use a base 10 system for counting, but the Babylonians considered the number 60 to be highly auspicious and useful. This is because 60 is a unique number that can be easily divided equally by many numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, and 12. Therefore, when scientists wanted to divide an hour into smaller sections, they chose this exact exact Babylonian math and divided an hour into 60 minutes. Now the math of hours and minutes was established, but how could it be measured? Around 1500 BC, the Egyptians created the first natural clock, called the sundial. They observed that as the sun changed its position in the sky, the shadow of a pillar or stone planted in the ground also changed its direction. They wrote numbers on the ground, and whichever number the shadow fell on was considered the time. But what happens after the sun sets? For this, the water clock was invented in 1400 BC. A small hole was made in a large vessel, and lines were drawn inside it. As the water dripped out, drop by drop, the water level dropped, and people could estimate the time by looking at the lines. But my friend, the thing to note here is that these early clocks were just rough estimates. They didn't have a second hand constantly pressing on humanity's chest. Even if there was a slight discrepancy in the sundial, nobody's life came to a halt. The work of our ancestors still happened peacefully, without any rush. Time was a flowing river to them, not a racetrack. Then enters the most terrifying twist in the story, the one that turned time into an iron shackle on our wrists. Did you know that history's first mechanical clock, featuring spinning gears and wheels, wasn't built in some spectacular science lab, but in the closed rooms of religion? The year was 996 AD. There was a European Christian monk named Gerbert of Aurillac, who later became Pope Sylvester II. He was the one who prepared an early framework for the first mechanical clock. But the question is, why would a monk need a clock? Actually, the monks living in Christian monasteries believed they had to pray to God exactly 7 times a day and night at precise times. They had this terror that if prayer time was even a minute early or late, it would be a massive sin, and the devil would find a way to overpower them. Therefore, clocks running on gears were installed on the large towers of monasteries, ringing a bell loudly whenever an hour was completed. You will be surprised to know that the word for bell in Latin is clocca, and it is from this clocca that today's word clock was derived. So think deeply about it. The clock wasn't invented for human convenience, but to herd and intimidate them with the stick of strict discipline. But human nature didn't stop there. It wanted to bring this dictatorial machine even closer. In 1505, a locksmith named Peter Henlein from Nuremberg, Germany changed history forever. Using small iron springs, he made history's first clock that a person could keep in their pocket. It was called the Nuremberg egg. After this, in 1656, a great Dutch scientist, Christian Huygens, invented the pendulum clock. With the arrival of the pendulum, the clock became so dangerously accurate that a clock which previously ran 15 minutes fast or slow a day now only had a difference of a few seconds. After this invention, the minute and second hands were also added to the clock. Now, time wasn't just on the high tower of the city, it had arrived in human pockets as the ticking of death. Wherever you went, punctuality stalked you. And then came that dark era of the 18th century, which we call the Industrial Revolution. The famous British historian E.P. Thompson published very in-depth research in 1967, which exposed the biggest deception by factory owners. When free farmers were brought in to work on machines in factories, capitalists turned time into a weapon to suck the blood of humans. Thompson proved from old court documents that factory owners played a huge trick. They would lock the factory doors as soon as the workers came in and confiscate their personal watches. In the morning when workers arrived, the main factory clock would be slowed down so they would feel it was still early and work longer. And in the evening at closing time, the clock would be sped up so the dismissal bell could be rung early, cutting the money from the workers' salaries. It was in this era that the world was served the most dangerous lie that is stuffed in our brains to this day, and that lie was time is money. Before this, our ancestors only looked at the task. If a field needed plowing, it was plowed. End of story. But now, humans started selling not their work, but the precious hours of their lives for pennies. As science advanced, we completely disconnected time from nature and locked it in a lab. In 1880, Pierre Curie discovered that when an electrical current is applied to a stone called quartz, it vibrates a highly precise number of times. Using this, Warren Marison built the first quartz clock in 1927, and then in 1955, scientist Louis Essen created the atomic clock, which runs on the vibrations of atoms. This clock is so accurate that it gains or loses only 1 second in 1.3 million years. years. Today, our phones, internet, and GPS are all enslaved to this atomic clock. But have you ever wondered what a horrifying game this ultra-modern clock has played with our bodies? In 2017, 3 American scientists, Jeffrey C. Hall, Michael Rosbash, and Michael W. Young, were awarded the Nobel Prize in Medicine. They proved in their research that a natural, millions of years old clock is fitted inside our body's DNA, called the circadian rhythm. This clock runs on sunlight. When you wake up with a jolt every morning upon hearing the harsh sound of an alarm, you are actually fighting a biological war against that millions of years old biological clock. Historian Thomas Ware's research proves that before the arrival of the clock, humans never slept for 8 continuous hours at night. They slept in 2 phases. First, they would sleep for 4 hours, then wake up for 2 hours in the deep darkness of midnight to peacefully talk or think, and then go back to sleep for another 4 hours. But today, the moment our eyes open at 2 in the morning, we panic terribly because the clock says there are only 4 hours left before going to the office. This fear, this stress of time, is the biggest cause of depression, heart attacks, and insomnia in today's generation. We are now imprisoned in a cage whose bars are not made of iron, but of second and minute hands. We have become the first creatures in history who eat not out of hunger, but by looking at lunchtime on the clock, and who sleep not out of exhaustion, but when the clock strikes 11 at night. I am absolutely not saying that you should break your wristwatch today and run away into the jungles. To survive in this modern world, the clock is our necessity. But my friend, use it only as a tool. Do not let it become the god of your life. Try waking up without any alarm at least 1 day a week. On that day, lock your watch in a drawer. Stop measuring time, because as long as you keep measuring time, it will keep cutting you into pieces. Let that ancient free human inside you come out just a little bit, who even today is screaming out to you that you are already complete in yourself. You have absolutely no need to prove yourself in front of this machine made of iron and plastic.